Hi and welcome. I'm your host, Michelle Marchant Johnson with Love Life Coaching, and I'm so excited about being here with you today. I have with me a wonderful returning guest who's always so popular with this audience, and that is the wonderful John Gray. Welcome, John.
Oh, hi. Happy to be with you.
So happy to have you back. Just a little bit of a formal intro before we jump in today. Dr. John Gray is the author of the most well-known and trusted relationship book of all time, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. USA Today listed his book as one of the top 10 most influential books of the last quarter century. In hardcover, it was the #1 best-selling book of the 1990s. Dr. Gray's books are translated into approximately 45 languages in more than 100 countries, and this book continues to be a bestseller. He has written over 20 books. His most recent book is Beyond Mars and Venus, which I have right here. Excellent book. I recommend you check it out.
I
His
have
Mars
two.
Venus,
I
yeah,
brought one along.
we're twinning here. We're twinning. And John helps men and women better understand and respect their differences in both personal and professional relationships. And he lives in Northern California. And he's just super popular on this channel all the time. I always get emails and messages from people saying, put John on again, put John on the show again. So, John, I want to share with you a couple of things. First of all, I've asked this audience for questions, and so I'd love to take some of those questions today. But a couple of people have also sent in some pretty interesting and fun comments that I'd love to share with you. And this first one I think will crack you up. It did me when I read it. Just wanted to share this with you because I think you'll enjoy this. This is from Mary Beth. She says, I love your interviews with Dr. John Gray. I listen to them frequently. One day I was in church and the service was about to start. I put my phone in my purse, set my purse down by my seat, and went to greet a friend. All of a sudden, I realized my phone was making some racket. I went over to see what was happening, pulled out my phone. I pulled my phone out of my purse just in time for John Gray to announce to the people sitting around me, I know men in their 70s and 80s who are having great sex. That sure got everybody's attention around me.
That's a fun story.
Don't you love that?
Yep.
So you're preaching in the church without even knowing it, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a question. Can you please ask John Gray about men realizing they are falling in love and how we as women can sense it without asking them directly?
Uh, yes. They say basically, and it's true, that a man shows his love particularly in the beginning, but also throughout the marriage in his actions. So it's through his actions that he shows his love and his affection. And I'm going to add to that one thing, which is often women think that if he does things without my having to ask, that means he really loves me. And that means he just knows what you need and remembers. But the fact that he delivers is that he loves you. So a more practical approach to men is to realize that if you ask and he says yes, then that means he loves you. And I think we always have to remember in life, we're not getting what we want. We need to ask. And this is a bigger challenge for women than for men, because when men do things on their own, I'll just do it myself, it raises the male testosterone hormone, which actually is good for him. But when a woman says, I'll just do it myself, it's not bad for her, but if she does that over and over, she's not raising her female hormone, which is estrogen. And as women get older, they need to do even more things that can raise estrogen. And that means asking for help and getting it. It's one of the most powerful ways to raise your female hormones. Doing it yourself is your male hormones. And so this is a challenge single women have at all ages, but more so as they get older, because the body doesn't automatically make as much estrogen. But estrogen is the hormone of love and well-being and grounds a woman in her feminine side. When she's too much on her male side, as all my talks talk about these days, it's often a source of stress for her, or can be a source of stress for her.
Yeah, so coming back to this, John, would you say that men fall in love by doing, you said they show their love by their actions,
And
and
they
you're
also
saying
fall in
that,
love. That's from other talks we've done. Very clearly, we fall in love and we stay in love by performing certain actions or behaviors, or could be what we say or do, that has a positive effect on a woman. So her reaction is one of appreciation, of acceptance, of trust, of depending on him, but not being needy. Needy is asking for more than he provides and pointing that out to him. But when you're appreciating a man, it's because there's a need and you're acknowledge, if you're hungry and somebody feeds you, there's a natural response of, this tastes good. I just had lunch. If I was to eat a meal now where I don't need food, I'd just be stuffing myself. It doesn't feel good. So the reality is men bond when they do something, have a meaningful effect on a woman. And the most meaningful effect is when a woman gets something that she needs. If it's just something she likes, that's okay. That's friendship, okay? Which is I like being with you, you like being with me. But what takes it to a deeper level of intimacy is where a woman feels, I feel safe and I can depend on him for that sense of security. I can depend on him to have my book back. I can depend on him not to be judgmental if I was to open up my feelings, which are often maybe not so positive. That's a whole key thing. The pressure to always be positive is not healthy. When women do have positive feelings in response to what a man does, he bonds with you. Well, having said that, that can put a pressure on women to always have a positive reaction to what he does. That's another trap. So the kind of how do you get through that trap is there's a need when you we all have kind of ups and downs, and when you're going through one of your downs, it's very easy to focus on your partner as a reason why you're feeling down. And what I found is that you just need to find other reasons for feeling down. One can be there was stress today at my job. I just want to talk about it. Then he can be a good listener and have to have empathy for you and demonstrate caring when it's not about him. Now now that's one thing, which is just being able to share what's going on inside of you. If you're positive all the time, you're pushing something down. The nature of life is we have good days and bad days. There's ups and there's downs. There's ups and downs. And intimacy occurs for a woman. Intimacy. That's not the intimacy that men experience. Men experience, look at what I did, see what I did, look what I did, look what I did. Yeah. And often women think of that as men's arrogance and ego trip and whatever. But it's just that's how they receive love is look what I did. And don't focus so much on what I didn't do. Because when you focus on what I didn't do, that's a downer. When you focus on what I did do, that's good. So there's a pressure, if you really understand men, there's a pressure to have a positive response. But you also have to recognize to the extent that we have positive responses, we also have a need as human beings to not be positive all the time. I don't think anybody's ever said that in that sense. But if you look at our biology, which is the prefrontal cortex, there's one part of our front part of our brain which sees problems. That's my right side, sees problems, looking off to the left. And looking off to the right is optimism and positivity. And just think about if evolution and progress is to occur, you have to have the optimism to solve problems, but you also have to know what are the problems. So things get good, and then there's going to be problems. In a playful way, in Men Are From Mars, I talk about one of the chapters on the Home Improvement Committee, which is when women have a home, actually a house, women make it into a home, there's always this sense of how can I make it better? How can I make it better? And that's a really good quality. Men sort of have the opposite, which is don't do anything unless it's broken. Fix it if it's broken. If it's not broke, don't waste the energy. So you have these two forces working together, but we're biologically designed to have both. But it turns out that when you can talk about problems, you can see them and talk about problems, it does make female hormones. And when you can basically go, okay, well, no big deal, not a problem. We can solve it. I can fix it. I can make it better. So that's the chapter on men and their Mr. Fix-It hat. He puts on his hat, he fixes something, he feels successful, and he bonds with you that way. And so there always has to be, in a sense, problems for him to be motivated, but it doesn't have, ideally, he's not the problem. And that's
It's
a
a big
whole challenge.
distinction.
It's a whole challenge in relationships is how to communicate to your partner, and women need to talk. It's a very important part of building building connection. And when she talks, if she doesn't have the awareness that she can talk about other things other than him in terms of problems, frustration, traffic is frustrating, politics is frustrating, health issues are frustrating, in-laws are frustrating. These are things you can talk about, frustration, and that's emotion. And when you feel that emotion, men will connect to that emotion as long as he's not being blamed. That's the whole thing. And maybe in your mind, you don't think why should he feel blamed? I'm just sharing my feelings. Well, often men, they hear it as anytime you want to make me better, what's wrong with me now? Okay. Am I not good enough? This is, you can say, oh, I'm just sharing my feelings, but you have to recognize that sometimes sharing your feelings will not be heard as being supportive of him. So I'm over here with 50 years of experience pointing out that if you can just share frustrations and disappointments about other things, and because that's easier for him to hear, he will hear you. And when a man hears your true feelings inside, even if it's not about him, he actually is connecting with her. And when he connects with her, then her sense of estrogen, these hormones that she needs, will go up. So the point of it is we have to communicate with an awareness. But at the same time, the women say, well, if I can't complain, well, ideally, you don't complain. I'm not saying you can't complain. There's actually ways to complain, but the ideally is instead of complaining is to realize behind every complaint is simply a request. So rather than complain, you didn't do this, you should have done that, don't do this. Once again, you forgot to turn out the light. Once again, you left the room a mess. Once again, you didn't call me. Instead, it's just simply, there's a problem. You just say, oh, honey, next time, I'd really love it if you call me in advance. Let's say he forgets again. You just say, oh, honey, next time, would you give me a call earlier? Then I'll know how to prepare. And you do it in a tone of a voice that it's not a big deal. Even if it's the 50th time, I just, if you want him to hear what you're saying, minimize it. And then it doesn't make him have to defend. Because anytime a man feels criticized, there will be an automatic defense. And he'll tend to do that very thing again and again and again. So here's what I figured out, which is take your relationship even to a higher level when you're in a relationship with a man, is you communicate to him. First of all, I'll say what you're going to do, and then I'll tell you how to communicate it to him because he's not listening to this talk. But basically, I've analyzed romance, and romance is whenever a man does something for a woman that she could do for herself, but he does for her. Now, that would be, and my first awareness of that is opening the car door for my wife on a romantic date and her saying, I can do it myself. And me saying, of course you can do it yourself, but you do so much for me and everybody else. Tonight, let me do everything for you. See, that's a sweet gesture. And it also helps relax this tendency inside of women where when they're out of balance, they tend to take on too much. I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do this. Well, tonight, let me do for you. So basically, if you analyze that, that's a man doing for a woman something she could do for herself, but he's going to do for her. Now, let's just add one other thing onto that, which is romantic, that's unrealistic. And that's that women are aware of that concept, but then they go, but I shouldn't have to ask. So romance,
right.
See, that's the big barrier. Okay. It's the whole thing. And even in Christianity, ask and you shall receive, it's one of the most important messages of prayer and so forth is learning to ask. And you're actually giving a man a gift. If you ask for something that you could do for yourself, but he's going to do for you, Why is that a gift to him? Because then you'll appreciate it even more because you don't have to do everything. So there's this. Now, of course, if you just start asking men to do stuff that you could do for yourself, he'll look at you like, why are you asking me to do that? You can do that yourself. What's your problem? So there's various ways to set this up, but you can basically let your partner know. One way would just say, honey, I'm so overwhelmed. I have this problem. I take on too much. And I think that if I could sometimes ask you to do little things for me that I could even do for myself, it will help. It'll sort of break this tendency I have to just stay busy, busy, busy and not be able to relax. So that would help me to relax. Another approach that I've used is for women is, honey, you are so amazing. You do so much for me that I feel like, I'm not your equal. And so and of course we are equals and so forth, but I start to feel like I'm not your equal. So if I could have 5 minutes a day where I can ask you to do something and you'll do it right away, and it will take less than 5 minutes. So just not a big deal. Something I could ask you to do. It takes less than 5 minutes. This is a biohack. It'll hack your hormones. Less than 5 minutes. And you will, if I raise my hand, I put five up. That means we're going to do that thing we commit to doing every day for 5 minutes, no matter what time, no matter what you're doing, whatever. I raise my hand. I'm going to ask you to do something for me that I could do for myself, but it will help me feel really, really good. And I'll appreciate it because it allows me to feel that we're equal. Because sometimes I just feel like, you're more important than me and I'm not that important. And then I feel undeserving. I start feeling I have to do more and more and more. So this will just fix that. And it will. This is what I
love it.
It's so good. It's so simple. And I'm giving talks, a lot of talks these days, even to groups where people don't pay. So they're the hardest audience, right? Because they're not even there necessarily to hear me speak. And every time I say, now, how many men in a relationship, and those even if you're imagining yourself in a relationship, but those are married particularly, that you would promise your wife 5 minutes every day to do something for her that you could do within 5 minutes. It could be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but something. And she can ask and you'll respond like a genie. Your wish is my command. Happy to do it. You respond like the maitre d' at a fancy restaurant. Oh, sit right here and let me get you a drink, Or if you're flying first class in an airplane, the flight attendant says, oh, if you push this button, we'll be happy to do whatever you like. So there's no grumbles, even if you might feel like, I don't want to do that. You pretend you go right at it. You respond right away. You do that thing. And what that builds inside of a woman is that she's not alone and that she has help, and help is always there. It's a very important message, even though she knows intellectually that he would be there if some big problem was there. Every man will be there if it's a big problem. But it's the test of that is, wow, if he'll do little things, I can ask every day for something. It builds estrogen in the body. And this is something that many women can relate to, but not necessarily know the words for it, which is if I bring her 40 roses, that's one surge of estrogen. If I bring her 5 roses, same surge of estrogen. If I bring her 1 rose, same surge of estrogen. It's lots of little things is what keeps the heart open in a relationship. And this 5-minute rule is so amazing. So a woman always feels that, and her job is to ask every day. See, just like the man has to respond, she has to practice this. Because I have so many women clients who are couples, and the woman won't do it. She says she'll do it. And then she feels, oh, he's busy watching TV, or he's tired, or I know he's really busy with something. Then you're not doing it. The whole key is for you to feel that you're equal to him, that he's available to you at any moment. And if you hold it to this less than 5 minutes, so that would look like, would you finish up the dishes? Or, would you make me a cup of tea? Would you go upstairs and get my lotion and a foot massage? Would you empty the trash? Any kind of thing that you would like him to do, just to have the freedom to be able to say it, knowing that you're always going to get a positive response. And on the other side of this, he's going to do something that only takes 5 minutes or less, and it's going to make you happy. Well, that's fantastic. Then there's the 10-minute rule, which is once a week, you get 10 minutes. Okay. And the 10-minute one is, you put up your hands like this. And I want to give I do this in my own marriage, right? And so I was, kind of tired from a day of work. I'm having dinner and my wife was taking longer to eat than me. And I really wanted to go watch the news. Okay. So that's my cave time. I need to just forget all my problems and everything, go watch the news. And usually I'll do that before dinner. But this time got home a little late having dinner, but I'm ready. I need to have some of my space time. I need to go to my cave, watch the TV, just forget everything. So we've done eating and she wanted me to stay with her. She likes me to sit and eat with her. So I'm happy to do that, but I'm done. And so I just said, I'm going to go watch TV now. And I was trying, first of all, to stay present with her. I just couldn't. And I'm really good at all this stuff, but nope, I need my time. I need to get over there. It's literally a strong desire to get over there. And she said, okay, 10 minutes, just be with me, talk with me. And it gave me the energy to be present. It was amazing when you ask a man to do something that he didn't want to do, but because you asked and because he's going to get a reward for it, he'll want to do it. See, this is the flip side of this thing of doing something for a man, him doing something that you can do for yourself. Well, the flip side of this is that you can ask a man to do something and he doesn't want to do it. But if the message is, I know you don't want to do this, but if you did it, I would feel so happy. It would feel so good. Would you do it? Then a man will go, well, it's true. I don't want to do that. But if it's going to make you happy, then I want to do it. See, men can shift just like that from not wanting to do something to wanting to do something. And just think about it. If somebody said, hey, would you fly to Dubai to give a talk? I said, no, I don't really want to fly to Dubai to give a talk. And they say, well, they're offering you this amount of money. I said, okay, I want to go to Dubai to give a talk. See how easy it is based on outcome to shift what you're wanting. And so often women assume that a man's just always happy to do anything. No, we're not. But when we clearly get that this specific thing is going to make you happy, and we know that's going to make you happy, we're happy to do it. So we'll shift gears.
Wow, so much there. So profound when you said behind every complaint, there's a request. Also, the opportunity for women who are in the early stages of a relationship and who are also in relationship, some techniques and some ways to ask and ways to invite support from the man without being overly needy or overly demanding. And it cracked me up when you were talking about the home improvement committee, because I can so relate to that, with my own home and the things that I want to have done. And my husband, just like you said, if it's not broken, let's not touch it. Let's not go there. But I thought, what they don't want is the husband improvement committee, where it feels like you're always looking at and picking at every little thing about them and trying to figure out how to improve them, rather than looking for requests that you can make of them or ways that you can appreciate what you are getting from them, which, from what I understand and from what I've experienced, helps motivate a man to want to do those things and to feel good about doing them. And you're most likely going to create this win-win where you're getting more of your needs met, and he's going to get that great feeling by providing for you.
Exactly. You summarized it wonderfully. If I could just add a little bit to it, which is to simply say is don't help us unless we specifically are asking for it. We don't need your help. And yet a woman, she, from her own experience, goes, gee, when my husband offers to help me, that's so wonderful. Whether I ask or not, it's actually better if I don't ask and he does it. Oh, how romantic, how wonderful. And that's would make you feel really good. So you assume he's over there waiting, thinking, oh, why isn't she offering to help me? No, right. If we're not asking for it, don't give us help. Okay, and if you actually look at the hormonal biology of helping someone, is for a man, he turns into hero. When a woman is helping, she turns into mothering nurturer. Okay, she's a nurturer. And this is like the more traditional relationship in our society was man takes care of the outer world to support the woman and taking care of the home and the child. Now I know that's outdated, but that's what that system was. Because if a man's providing from the outer world, she feels I have what I need to survive and to feel safe. So now I can unconditionally give to my child because I'm receiving so much. And when he comes home, I have so much appreciation for him because he's provided the space for me to give to my child. And this is amazing. Often, even I reflect on this, something women today will say to their husbands, I just need you to hold the space for me. And men don't know what you're talking about. Hold
Right.
the space for
Hold the
me.
space. What does that mean?
It's the same thing as at the more traditional situation. I create a space for her to raise her children feeling safe, where she doesn't have to worry about money. And, she can freely give to her child and she has help. I'm helping her help the child. So I create that space. So in modern times, what women are primarily needing from a man that men do not understand has to be communicated to them in a language they can make sense of from their point of view. But the space is a space where I can freely express myself without feeling I'm going to be judged as irrational, as overreacting, as unworthy of love, as undesirable, as a little crazy or ridiculous. All these things, guys will roll their eyes and they don't know they're insulting you. They're going, well, that's ridiculous. Well, that's silly. Why would you be upset about that? Or why do you have so many complaints about this and this and this? He just doesn't understand the female psyche. And what I've shared today, some women are trying to hide and they might get mad at me, but the female psyche looks at problems and feels good talking about them. If we look at the whole foundation of the biggest industry in America, there's way more therapists, coaches, and counselors than there are doctors and nurses and medical people. And this is huge industry. And primarily it's 90% women who are coming to talk about problems. And if they can talk about problems and somebody is hearing them, they will actually feel better. Now, once they feel better, then if they have a good coach or a good therapist, the coach will help them understand how they're contributing to the problems in their life and what they can do to help solve the problems in their life. One of my criticisms of many forms of counseling is just listening to people. Okay. Listening actually induces a kind of a bit of an addiction to just talking about problems rather than looking at as well, how am I contributing to the problem? Whereas, with a man, I will always counsel differently, which is I'll hear what he's talking about and say, okay, well, what do you think she should have done? That's always easy to look. That's problem solving. Well, how could she have handled you differently? Now, how could you have handled her differently? And now what are you going to do about it? See, that's more of a problem solving dynamic as opposed to for women, I will always focus more on first sharing what they're feeling in terms of reacting to their partner or to their life, going a little deeper into that raises estrogen. When you learn more about yourself or when you feel safe to share what's going on inside. And for those that haven't heard our other talks, just briefly, is that when you can raise a woman's estrogen by interacting with her, her stress levels will go down. Bottom line, always goes down. If for a man, if you can give him, if he can come up with a solution, or now he has clear direction on how to solve a problem, or he does solve a problem, his testosterone levels go up. And for men, this is a challenge for men today with keeping their testosterone levels up. If you go to most people think, well, it's normal and natural for men's testosterone to go down as they age. Well, it's average. That's the average, but not all men as they get older have testosterone going down. It's just most men. I'm at 72 and my testosterone levels have just gone up. I'm 50% higher than I was as a young man. And this is the possibility that a good relationship can support a man and staying anchored in his masculinity, helping a woman find and anchor her into her femininity. Even though at work, maybe she's being very independent and she's making money, doing her job. That's all good. I mean, that's what we're doing right now. We're doing work. But then you have a relationship you come home to. And as much as you can also include friendly people around you, if you're a woman, you have a team of women who are just a team of men and women who are supportive of you. then in that work world, you're also making estrogen as well. But if we look at kind of the averages, if we go back to averages, the average woman in the workplace has double the uh, cortisol levels of the men,
Mm.
because you're in a job that requires testosterone. Anytime you have to make decisions that have important outcomes, we'll put it that way, gain and loss. Every time you make a decision, am I going to make more money? Am I going to make less money? Am I going to be effective, successful, or not successful? So we're in that situation where there's a pressure to achieve more, to accomplish more, to set goals, to sacrifice. And it's a key part, sacrifice what I want to do and do what other people want. That is a testosterone producer. So when you're in the workplace, you are making testosterone. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's harder to also be making estrogen at the same time. You can.
Mhm.
Two ways you can be making estrogen at the same time. One, having an ideal workplace, which is you feel all your emotional needs are being met. So maybe they provide coaching for the women. I do this in the Middle East. It's ironic, where my ideas are almost more popular than anywhere in the world is the Middle East. And
Really?
the government provides coaching, MarsVenus coaching, for the women in the workplace in the government.
Wow.
And there's even one judge came to one of my workshops there. He said, "I'm a divorce court judge, and anybody wants to get a divorce, they send them home with your book before they can come back and get their divorce." He says it helps so much of the time. They're very much aware of that clarity of understanding the new challenges that women have, because suddenly this, like overnight, women are in the workplace. If you go into the government buildings there, it's, probably 80% women doing all these activities. And yet they also know their stress levels are higher. So having a coach to talk about their feelings and whatever, talking to somebody who's has no power to change her environment. Okay, meaning it's just for her to feel better, for her to explore her feelings. There's two ways to express feeling. Two ways to express feeling. One is complaining. You're talking about this didn't happen, this is going on, this is unfair, this person said that. Well, help me understand that better. And if you're complaining to your boss, that's complaining. But if you were having lunch with a girlfriend and sharing what happened at work today, that's sharing. So you see, there's a discernment there. Sharing is talking about your feelings with somebody who you're not expecting to do anything about it. And
Mm.
complaining is sharing to somebody that you want them to hear what you're suffering, so to speak. Hear your problem, hear your emergency, whatever it might be, and do something about it. Okay, well, that's complaining, or it could be asking. And always with your husband, ideally, it would be asking rather than complaining, and sharing with your friends or your coach or your therapist, or sharing with your husband about things that he is not possibly responsible for. Now, let's
Mhm.
say even the extreme of that would be, let's say you're sharing your unhappiness about your job and whatever. Uh, a man might feel really bad because he wishes he could make enough money so you couldn't do that job. Actually, it was a friend of mine was just sharing this story. And
Mm.
and I said, you have to stop reacting the way you're reacting, I said to him, because you're putting a pressure on her not to be able to talk about the problems at work. Because she knows if I talk about the problems of my job, you're going to feel bad. So now I'm not going to talk about them with you because I don't want you to feel bad. You see how that dynamic is? Whereas
Yeah.
you need to make it safe for her to talk about her job. And in the back of your head, you can think, gee, I'd like to be able to make more money. But the reality is, my wife is happy to be with me. We have a happy life together. And she's going to, whether she's got a great job or not a great job, she's going to need to share about what's going on. But men have this sort of naive thought that if you have enough money, that women will just be happy all the time. No, that's not the reality. There's this positive and negative side of life, and women need to be able to express that negative side of life in a context where somebody can empathize with their feelings, and then she can more easily shift from looking at the negative to looking at the positive. So this is that
Mhm.
whole idea of the glass is half full or half empty. The reality is life is always, my life, your life is half full and half empty. That's the way it is for everybody if they tell the truth about what's going on. Some people, they just focus on, oh, everything's perfect. That's what they do on social media. but then you don't know what happens
Yeah.
in the bedroom, which is nothing.
Right.
Or you don't
Right.
know that, you see these couples going to Hawaii and the family, they're all happy. But then when you're the therapist, they're all hating each other and they're jealous of each other and they're,
Right.
and not that their happiness isn't real as well, but there's this other side to things. And in social media, all we do is we see that positive side, or what appears to be a positive side, and we keep thinking something's wrong with us because there's this half empty cup. But the half empty cup is how we're reacting to our lives. And if you can share that half empty with your partner, the parts that aren't about your partner, then what will happen is, and your partner can witness you sharing problems and feelings that are not positive about other things. And then you have the discipline of shifting gears to what I'm grateful for and what I'm happy about and what I'm proud of, and what I love. So you to the extent anybody focuses on their negativity, you have to be responsible to come back and look at the positive side. And many people don't have that training. What I suggest for anybody, and is to practice writing these things out. Writing is a very powerful way to process and look at the negative and then look at the positive. And some people can't look at the negative. They're just stressed. They can't actually identify that right now I'm frustrated. Right now I'm disappointed. Right now I'm concerned and worried. Right now I'm mad. Right now I'm mad at myself. Right. There's a whole range of emotions inside that many times people can't just immediately access. But if you start writing about, okay, what am I feeling and what else am I feeling? And of course, in all my books, I have a structure of sort of questions to ask yourself to help you go through them, which I call that processing feelings.
Yeah, so profound. I think for a lot of women out there, one of the big challenges is exactly what you're talking about, this overwhelm. I think it's hard for women in today's day and age, at least a lot of the women I talk to, and I've experienced this myself, because we're trying to kind of like figure out and play all of these different roles. And there's great new opportunities that maybe generations in the past haven't had, but it also can feel overwhelming because we can feel like we're doing all the stuff at home that our mothers and grandmothers did, but we're also doing the work thing, and we might just feel like we're just so overwhelmed. And so some of the keys you're talking about here are so important, because when you can share with a partner, when you can kind of share what's going on with a partner, without it being directed at him as a complaint, or without him feeling like he has to fix all of it. And obviously there are communication techniques to make that possible. Then I think that in and of itself feels so good to a woman, even if it's not a coach or a counselor, if she can share that with a partner, that can bring down that level of stress and she can feel more supported. And then if we start using like the 5-minute technique or the 10-minute technique, then we can get actual support. And as you were talking about that, John, I was thinking, for me, sometimes when I am feeling that overwhelm, if I can just have one thing taken off my plate, it like suddenly makes me feel so much lighter. Like I'm like, I can do this. I'm fine. I just need to feel like that support. So that's why your 5-minute technique or your 10-minute technique is so incredibly brilliant.
Yeah, and you hit it right. It's literally like the straw that breaks the camel's back. And you just need to lift one straw and suddenly everything feels, I'm not completely alone. I have a partner. I'm not here. And your mind then starts to settle down from speeding up with too many things going on, this ruminating about this and this and this. And if you look at it again, you just described it perfectly from a subjective perspective. And I'll just add to it, just from the hormonal perspective, when you feel I can ask and somebody immediately is there for me, hormones shift right away. Estrogen levels will go up. It's an amazing thing. Another hormone is once you're through menopause, it's not as important, but the behavior when you're is still just as important. And the behavior that makes progesterone, when you're younger, after ovulation, progesterone levels have to go high. And as you go after ovulation, after menopause, progesterone is not as a hormone that as important. However, the behaviors that go along with progesterone should be anchored into your life. And what those behaviors are is doing what I like to do. There has to be a balance
Mm.
of doing what I like to do, doing what I can do to achieve goals. That's your, you could call that you time, doing things for other people. Then you've got doing what I like to do. That's me time. And doing things what we like to do. That's more your estrogen levels. And it's not so much things that we like to do, it's what I need and my partner provides for me. And I think that not that we always have to have every woman has to have a man to accomplish that. There's nuns that are very, very happy, but they have a relationship with God that's very intimate. Okay. And they pray and they get help and they can talk to God and so forth. So you have to have somebody you feel has got your back, somebody who's there for you. And this is more important for women than for men. It's important for men, but more important for women because it generates estrogen. And estrogen is this hormone that when you're making your body gets the message you're doing the right thing, everything's okay, you're not in danger. Because we know that whenever the stress goes down in a woman, her estrogen levels are at a healthy level. Or after ovulation, when she's not experiencing stress hormones, her progesterone levels and estrogen levels will be produced.
Mm. Yeah, and see, that's you're explaining like why it feels so good. It's kind of like why in the body it actually feels so good, or why it feels like such a relief when you can say, you know, 5 minutes, can you take this thing off my plate or whatever. You're explaining what's actually physiologically happening in the body. What I know is it just feels so good,
It
right?
just feels
It
so
just
good. We're just explaining that part of it. Just feels good. I don't have to do everything. And there's this idea. It's more so in men than women, generally speaking. There can always be exceptions, but for a man, we're constantly prioritizing.
Mm,
How important is this? What's number one? What's number two? And anything below that goes into not necessary now. Okay. It's like we only have so much bandwidth. We will focus on what's the thing I have to do now, what's next, and then maybe I'll worry about other things. But it's really focusing on one thing. Women do it differently. They take on everything weighs the same in a sense, that so she could be just as upset about their shoes sitting in front of the TV set and I have to clean that up as opposed to I have to go and pay the mortgage bill. Okay. So and we don't have enough. Okay. So there's the dynamic of not weighing everything the same. Men will say, okay, what's the most important? Not going to do it. And that's why often men forget to do the little things is because we're doing the big thing. I'm working hard to make money. That's the most important thing. So everything below that becomes unimportant. Now, when we're courting a woman, dating her, falling in love with her, we're not really ready to give the big stuff. So all we're willing to do is the little stuff. And that's what opens women up is lots of little stuff. And then to be married, you get married. That's a big stuff. That's important to continue on. But to continue on doing the little stuff creates a romantic love. And people say, I want to feel what we felt in the beginning. Well, go back and be like you were in the beginning, where he would do lots of little things, and that makes no sense to a man. So I've just explained the way men think, which is bigger is better, and the biggest. Why do I need to do the little? And when you complain about something little, we go, but I do all this big stuff. It's so insulting for you to complain about the little. But for her, in her mind, if you won't do the little, how can I trust you to be the big? See how from either
mhm.
perspective. So it's a misunderstanding, and so we can create dynamics to bring that to create those hormones. And I think one of the most popular ideas of the book Men Are From Mars. And by the way, most of these ideas we're talking about here is that beyond Mars and Venus, I talk about all the hormones and how man can help a woman come back to her female side, what a woman can do to boost a man's male side. But it's not that different from Men Are From Mars. But when I wrote Men Are From Mars, it was primarily focused on couples where men were more masculine and women were more feminine. And now we're in a world where it's starting to be a role reversal happening here. And that was natural because as women become independent, men want to connect. We want love too. I mean, just think about, the strong sex drive that most men used to have. Uh, It's dwindling now, but sex, at least in his 20s, they do studies showing that men think about sex every minute. Okay, there's not a minute that goes by where he's not thinking about sex, and women certainly aren't, in those tests at least. So that's a strong desire. And what is sex but connecting? It's connecting with a woman. It's going into a woman. It's being one with a woman. Okay, so that's this connection. So if a woman's more masculine, in order to connect with her, he will start to become more feminine. So these polarities of masculine and feminine, they're very complementary forces. They're everywhere in the universe. The expansive force is the feminine energy. The contraction force is the masculine energy. Now, this microphone here, if it was just expansive energy, it would just blow up. And if it would be a black hole if it was just contraction. So these forces are always working together, trying to find out balance. And it's also how we experience anything is through contrast. It was like I recently, a week ago, I was had a toothache and went to the dentist. And after something I got caught in my gum and got inflamed. And so I was in pain. And this is the thing, when you're in pain, it's really hard to be loving. And he scraped that out and the pain was gone. I was so happy. And what I realized, Michelle, is that the reality is I'm happy most of the time, but I don't necessarily feel it as much. So the key is, can you feel this state of being that you're in, this state of happiness? Because I'm not rarely stressed. For me, I'm rarely stressed. So it's like in a sense, I had to contrast of feeling the pain to go, oh, this is how I feel. I feel happy. And so there's this contrast. If if you get into a warm bath, it feels so good getting in. But if you just stay still, you won't feel the warmth after a while. So you have to move the water a bit and have contrast of more or less, more or less. That's how we're allowed to feel. Now, when we bring that whole idea into sex and making love, what I have found, particularly for men, which then has an effect on women, which is when a man has sex with a woman, that's when he will feel the most. He will feel pleasure the most. And so it's a little discipline that I teach called enlightened sexuality, which is, and now at this time when you're able to feel more than any other time, feel the love that's in your heart and share that with your partner. Express that to your partner. And when she's having sex, she's going to be more vulnerable than any other time.
Right.
What it means to be vulnerable, one way of understanding vulnerability is being in a situation where you give someone the power to make you feel really good or to make you feel really bad, to hurt you. So that's vulnerability. That's what love is. When your heart is open, you're giving someone the ability to make you feel really good. Ideally, that's what sex is you feel a lot of love. You feel really good. But when you feel really good, you're also giving someone the power to make you feel really bad. That's why couples will have often the most tension, before they start having sex. It tends to be rather easy. Once you have sex, these walls, we take them down. And so we can open up to our partner, where a woman says, I'm allowing you to see me and love me and do things that make me feel really good. So that will take her to a higher level of estrogen. I'm trusting you to be there for me, not be cruel to me, mean to me, judgmental me, critical, but you're going to love me. And a man at that time, he will feel more because she is being vulnerable. That allows him to feel more. And because it's so pleasurable, it allows him to feel more. So it's learning how to focus the attention for a woman on how to be more vulnerable, for a man how to be more expressive of his love through his touch, through his words, through his interaction, and by feeling love. I can choose to feel my right hand, or I can choose to feel my left hand. It's just a choice. I can choose to feel, more and more pleasure. Oh, this pleasure feels so good. That's kind of like this ice cream tastes so good. I love ice cream, but that's different kind of love from I love my partner. So, men can just go do porn and feel love for a moment. I love how I feel, but that's not, we're talking about real love, which is I'm feeling the love in my heart that I have for my partner and reflecting on how much I love them and my commitment to her and over. So I have another hack for that, which is, now this isn't when you're just dating. This is when you have start having a relationship with someone. And it's called the reassurance exercise. Have we talked about the reassurance
I
exercise?
don't think so.
Okay, so
Uh-uh.
this is, we've done a lot of talks together. So this is really one of the most powerful things I do with my couples, is that, first of all, what it looks like, and then how do you set it up? Okay, because if I'm talking to both partners, it's very easy, but I'm talking to women here mainly, how you will now communicate to your partner to do what I'm asking him to do, or what you'll be asking him to do. So it looks like this. Uh, every day, I do 4 hugs a day. Okay, that's another hack. Just you bring affection into a relationship. Women need that. Men don't realize how good it feels until they start doing it for a while. And then, because it's making her feel good, it makes you feel good. It keeps you more connected to being on your male side, doing something for her, pursuing her, and then feeling her reaction. Then you can be on your female side too. So you get both sides. It's an amazing concept, but about why men need women. We might cover that, but I want to finish the reassurance exercise, because this is why women need men. Okay. Every woman, when she gets ready, they put on an outfit and they're thinking, what will look good? What will people like? How I'll be best presentable? How I be lovable? And you're married, you want to feel loved. I mean, it's like, if you've got a lot of money in the account, you're checking to make sure it's still there. Okay. That's what
Right.
love is. It's more important than all these people liking me. Boy, my love. So it's the need for reassurance. Now, Bonnie, for those that don't know, Bonnie's my wife of 34 years, and she passed on 5 years ago. I'm remarried now. But so this is with Bonnie in the very beginning. She would always say to me, John, I need reassurance. I need reassurance. It wasn't clear what she meant. I mean, one of the reasons we had a great relationship is she was able to communicate in a way that I could hear. And I'm like thinking, what does it look like and whatever. And eventually I figured out this process. And the process is, and I don't want to diminish women in any way in explaining this, women needing reassurance. Men need reassurance in terms of we're a success. We're always looking to, what have I done? If you're happy, I'm happy. If you like the movie I brought you to, you go, that's a great movie. I go, yes, I wrote that movie. I directed it. We're looking for ways to feel successful. That's why. Why? Because we need to make 10 times more testosterone than a woman. We need to make 20 times more testosterone in order to be romantically interested in our partner. So that relationship has somewhere in it needs to bump his testosterone up. And somewhere in that relationship, it needs to bump her estrogen up. So when I get reassurance that I'm a success, and like if ever I'm talking and she says, oh, what a good idea, bump testosterone. What am I getting at that moment? Reassurance. I say, oh, explaining something, and she goes, what a good idea. Boom. Now she may be thinking it, but if she says it, it's much more powerful. All right. So
Right.
now the flip side of this exercise, the reassurance exercise, is for a woman. When you're doing it, we're going to do the reassurance exercise. He says, good, let's do that. And then she says, or he could say, let's do the reassurance exercise. And she says, okay. In this exercise, she starts out by saying, do you love me? He says, yes. Now, then she says, how much do you love me? He says, with all my heart. And she says, do you still think I'm beautiful? Absolutely, honey. You're so beautiful. Are you happy to be dating me? Are you happy to be married to me? Yes, I'm happy. I'm so happy to be married to you. Will you always love me? I will always love you. If I make mistakes, will you forgive me and not punish me? I will forgive you and not punish you. Whatever comes up. But those are the basics of, do you like me? Do you love me? Do you have fun with me? Are you happy you're with me? It could be, do you regret being married to me? No, I don't regret being married to you. Because these are feelings that crop up in women that I've seen every woman in counseling. Okay. So I know they're there. Some women may not be aware of it, but it's there. And who doesn't want your partner saying you're so beautiful? The problem is, as a woman, as a human being, we all have resistance to being loved. We want love, but we often have resistance. And if your husband just says, oh, honey, you're so beautiful, a part of you goes, yeah, but I'm getting older, in your mind. Or he says, I love you so much. And she says, well, if you love me, why did you forget to do that thing for me the other day? It's like when he's pushing the love, there's resistance that can come up. But if she asks, there's no resistance. she has to it's a leap of faith. It's a scary thing to do this exercise. And this is why you discuss it with your partner, and all their answers will always be in the affirmative and no making jokes or anything. But this is a sweet thing that really makes her feel good. And now, how would you present this to the man? You'd basically say, honey, you're just so amazing. Sometimes I feel like, you do so many things for me. You're so amazing. I feel less than you. And I start feeling a little insecure. So this little exercise would help me feel equal to you. Again, you're always coming back to feeling equal. Now, isn't it interesting, even as I'm saying this, because I know some women are going, I'm equal to him. Of course I'm equal to him. Well, that's the whole feminist movement, is we want equality with men. Well, why do you want equality? You don't see men running around going, we want equality with women. And you can have a response to that. But it's like, there's a place I want to feel equal. Okay. And so they're all like, who's getting paid equal and who's getting the reality is, you're in a relationship, you will start to feel not equal. And the way you deal with that is resentment. Whenever you're feeling resentful, you're feeling things aren't equal. See, again, you need reassurance that things are equal. And so when you start seeing that it's not equal, you start feeling unfair, unjust, or you start feeling insecure, or you pump yourself up, or you do more to prove that I'm equal. So all that, whatever the reasons are, just try it out, where you just say, every woman loves to have a husband say, you look so beautiful. Now, if you don't have a discussion and you said, honey, do you still think I'm beautiful? He said, of course I do. Why would you say something like that? Or if you say, do you love me? Well, why would you think I don't love you? What did I do wrong? Why were you asking these questions? So the way you have to set it up is answer all those questions in advance and just say, you're so amazing. I love you so much, but sometimes I feel like I'm not as good as you. I don't feel equal. That makes him willing to do this exercise. Okay. So I need reassurance. And it would look like this. It takes less than 2 minutes. Okay. It's a simple thing. Once a day, we'll do this. And one of the hugs, if you do the 4 hugs a day and one of the hugs, then you do the reassurance was, do you love me? Yes, I love you. How much do you love me? With all my heart. Okay, that's the basics of it. And then whatever we want to add to it. Do you still think I'm beautiful? Are you still mad at me from the other day? We had that argument. No, I'm not. You basically are getting reassurance that everything is okay. Now, there were other techniques of reassurance as well, which is if ever we had a little bit of an argument, I will always take a timeout. Very important biohack. Okay. If a man's angry and he talks, he will become angrier. This is what women have to all know. If a man is angry and he talks, he will only become more angry. Why? Because when you have connected to an emotion and you communicate, that emotion will just become stronger. His estrogen levels will go higher and higher. And for men, if estrogen goes high and his testosterone's not going high, then he's in fight or flight. And if he's in fight or flight, she will be in fight or flight. There's no thinking, oh, well, you should try to be a good listener, woman. No, you're in fight or flight. You can't listen. Nobody can hear another point of view when you're in fight or flight. So one of the tactics there is to take a time out until he feels better. And then he comes back to have the conversation again. He has an exit phrase, which is, honey, I just need to think about this for a while. And then we'll talk tomorrow at noon. Or we can talk in a half an hour, or we can talk next Tuesday at our therapist session. Whatever it is, you have to give her, I'll be back at a certain time, but it's better to have it a short time. And, I just need some alone time right now, and then I'll be done. And we can talk about this on Thursday with our counselor or whatever. You have to give her a reassuring gesture that we're going to come back and we're going to talk about something. At the same time, he pulls away and she has to practice not looking at him like, what's wrong with you? Okay, you're not a loving partner. He's protecting you. And this is what Bonnie told me one time after I took my time out. And then I came back in. She said, honey, thank you so much for protecting me from your dragon. Okay, so I was getting thanked for walking out on a heated conversation. That freed me up so much. So many men, when I tell this story, they go, yeah, that would be great. We always feel a little guilty that, we're starting to get angry and we walk away. That's what men do. And what we have to just add to it and we'll walk back. But when it came back, that was once again, we had a reassurance hack. Now in our relationship, when I came back after being a little grumpy, I come back and I would just stroke her head. That's what she liked. Some women go, I don't want to be petted. Okay. So so but you have to have something. We just come in and offer to do something, show her that you're Mr. Friendly again. And in a relationship, when you understand Mars Venus, we as men have to work harder at giving respect for what women have to say. And why is that? Because women need to speak out, because if they don't, they're suppressing. And if they have to suppress, and you're censoring her, so to speak, then what occurs is her stress levels will go up and her negativity will increase. So this is what men have to understand. For men, if I don't have to speak, so many men are quiet about stuff. We basically communicate through our actions. Okay, so our actions do our communication. And if I have negative reactions, I don't behave that way. I process my feelings for sure, but I don't have to go throw them on my partner. If I have any negativity, and this is, if you'd say, John, what's the most important thing in your marriage is my value system. Okay, my value system is never, ever to hurt my partner in any way. And now I understand the ways I would hurt her. Most men don't realize the way they hurt their partners. They never wake up thinking, gee, I want to hurt my partner. But we do unknowingly. And so this is the whole idea, is realizing to create a freedom of expression for women. But at the same time, there's an appropriateness to how women need to express themselves. You can't just, say whatever's going on inside of you in any situation. You find the appropriate time, the appropriate place. If you want to complain about your husband, go talk to a girlfriend who will go, yes, my husband too. You'll get
Right.
that. And go to a good therapist, a Mars Venus coach, for example, go to them and they'll explain, they'll hear you. And then they'll say, okay, now what's another way you could communicate that to your partner? How can you ask for what you want? What is it you're needing? And how can you ask for that? Now you've vented out your feelings, your estrogen levels are up. Now let's go to your testosterone side and solve the problem, what you can do about it. So this is, handling both sides, but always with women, the importance of being able to express and share what's inside of her is the essence of how to come back to your female side. And I know that's a big question that women ask you, Michelle, is that, how do I get back to my female side? I want to find that soft, loving part of me. It's like no man is good enough for me. I seem to be picky about all these things. What is it? I said, that's being too far on your male side, or that feeling of being overwhelmed and stressed. How to come back to your female side. These biohacks, asking your partner for support, and getting the reassurance exercise. And you could start with doing it twice a week. And you can say to your partner, if I'm not doing it enough, then you can say, let's do the reassurance exercise, and then I'll do it. Because my experience is, ironically, all men are willing to do this, and women are the ones who don't do it. And I can understand that too, because it's scary. It's scary.
It's emotionally vulnerable. What I'm hearing a lot of, it's emotionally vulnerable for a woman to ask for that reassurance. And I think this is something that probably a lot of men don't understand how important that is for a woman, because they're like, well, I told her once that I loved her, and I already told her that I thought she was beautiful. Why does she need to ask me this again and again?
And you just hit on something I forgot to say. So when you're setting this up with your partner, you say, I know you love me, and I know you think I'm beautiful. That's why we got together. And I trust that. But there's this part of me that's insecure. So you'd have to embrace, there's a part of me that's insecure, and you can fix that for me. You can help me. Again, so this is a way you could help me. It'll only take 2 minutes. Would you like to know what it is? She says, okay. And even if he's a little silly about it, because anytime you're asking a man to do something new, a part of him feels like, I'm not doing enough now. He might even be aware of it, but he has to sort of lighten it up and, okay, I'll try this thing. And that's how I felt with my wife, when I realized women needed hugs. I didn't take it that seriously until I realized how it made her feel so good. And now it became a real thing for me. And I love giving hugs, and I'm happy to do it. And I seek her out to do it. These are the keys, these little hacks. To hack a computer is to get it to do what you want. So this is hacking your biology so that you can feel the loving feelings inside your heart.
Mm-hmm. And I love the idea of like taking a break so that an argument doesn't, or a disagreement doesn't escalate. And I think that's a really powerful thing for couples to have in their tool of arsenals too, because Otherwise, if a man's mad, like you were saying, if he keeps talking about it when he's mad, he's going to get more upset. He's going to get more mad. Things are going to escalate. This whole idea of taking a break, as long as the woman knows that he's going to come back around and that
That's
he's going to be willing to have that conversation with her and that she is going to have that opportunity to express her feelings. It's just we have to de-escalate so it doesn't go the other direction and blow up,
But
right?
let's look at her side of it as well. He's going to come back to have the conversation, but she has to look at, okay, how am I communicating in a way which is triggering the worst part of my partner? And how can I sort of vent my feelings to somebody at that time or write them out, whatever, so I can sort of settle down. And then I look at what the problem was and I can make a request, or I can let him know, communicate in a different way. Because the closer you get to your partner, the easier it is to get bruised. It's like if you're dancing at a distance, no problem. But when you're getting close, you can step on feet. That's just the challenge of being in an intimate relationship. But the payoff is when you have your heart open, you can feel safety and trust. Here, you can have someone take you to the highest levels of intimacy and happiness. And for many people, it will be the great joy of having fantastic sex and living a long life. That's not for everybody. Some people can live a long life without fantastic sex. I'm not judging that. I'm just 72 years old going, I didn't think it was going to be this great. It just gets better because, when you're raising kids and you're really busy and all that, you don't have enough time, to have this time together. So it can change and get better. And what I know to be the case is when couples are making love, there's so much more love in the relationship that the normal challenges are not so big. It's like you have a bank account, you're filling up your bank account. So when you're paying your bills, you're not like going on empty. You've got an abundance of love. And that's what making love can do. That's one of the tools that can do it. But I know lots of women are listening and we're winding up now. And they're probably thinking, yeah, but I don't have a relationship to try all this stuff out with. Keep in mind that everything we're saying is a very powerful, if it relates to you in some way, you can apply it to your past relationships and see your own, if only I had this, if only I did that, if I only stood this, we wouldn't have had so much trouble, okay, if there was trouble. That gives you more confidence that you can create a relationship now by looking at, that relationship, it's often easy to see the other person's mistakes, not so easy to see our own, how we could have made it different, even though it might have been the wrong guy, okay, that's also the case. But having the confidence of seeing how I contribute to the problem, I say that good endings make good beginnings, which is if you're able to then realize you're part of the problem, not just them, you can find forgiveness and gratitude for the good things that were there. That opens the door for finding the right person for you now. It creates a kind of polarity that makes you more attractive and other men more attractive to you when you're feeling not like a victim.
So beautiful, so beautifully said. And there were so many gems in this interview, John, and I'm so grateful to you. So grateful because every time we talk, I feel like you offer so many valuable things that are helping so many people out there. And I get the comments all the time from the women in my audience, from the women on my YouTube channel, and men. And you're just opening up so many new possibilities. And yeah, being able to take what we've learned, or even the disappointments or the heartbreaks from past relationships, or the quote unquote mistakes we've made, and taking those things forward and not being mad at ourselves, but basically looking at them as learning opportunities, looking at the techniques we're learning and talking about here today as learning opportunities, that can be something that can help propel you forward to a new possibility and greater intimacy and love than you've ever been able to experience up till now. So it's a very hopeful message that you're sharing in your books, in your talks, in the techniques that you're teaching. And it's so amazing to me how some of these little things can make such a huge difference in what is possible in a relationship.
It's literally like if you're going on a journey and maybe it's a 3-hour journey and just 1 degree off, you're going to end up somewhere completely different than just going
Right.
straight, just that little correction. And I feel like I want to add something to our conversation very quickly. Recently, I finally, after several years of promoting a certain nutritional product designed to help create hormonal balance. Lower your stress level and create hormonal balance. People are always asking me what I can do for that. And I promoted something for over 20 years. And then with the shutdown, we weren't able to get the supplies because it comes from all around the world, these ingredients that I put together over 20 years ago. And now it's available again. So it's available at Amazon. And to find it there, because it's a complicated name, it's called elemental orotates. Orotates are a special substance that delivers minerals all the way to the genome for genomic support, because we have to support the genome and women to start producing more estrogen, and the genome is what determines testosterone levels in men. So this is something that's known to help the genome self-correct. If you're doing the self-corrective behaviors, then your body's able to make the adjustments necessary to support those behaviors. So I could speak for an hour about it, but I just want to briefly mention it's available, one for men, one for women, and they can go to MarsVenus.com. They can see at the top, it'll have a link to Amazon for elemental orotates. You can also be on our, we have so many wonderful blogs there with my daughter as well. And we have a class called Understanding Men, which is very, very helpful for women to understand men. I'm sure listening to all of our talks together, Michelle, that women will have a greater understanding of men. And with Lauren and I working together on this Understanding Men course, it's very comprehensive. It's a 6-week online class. I love it. I think it's really great. It is for women only, but if you're in a relationship, I recommend the man take the class with you, because it's amazing what men don't understand about themselves. Okay, as I'm trying to explain to women what men don't understand, and what women, for a man to realize what women don't understand about us, because just like women think, don't you realize what I need? And men just go, why is she doing this? She doesn't understand. She doesn't have to do that. So there's a lot of awareness. And so much of this is just awareness of these new insights to help us cope with this new, and it is a new male-female relationship where women can be completely independent in their work and have the ability to survive on their own. But also, what do you need a man for? Emotional intimacy, fulfillment, partnership. All these emotional needs are now at the top of the list, but men have never been taught how to prioritize that. And women have never been taught how to motivate a man or teach a man what she needs for that emotional fulfillment. Because it's primarily, if I can make you emotionally fulfilled, I am emotionally fulfilled. I'll say that again. If I can support my wife in being emotionally fulfilled, I am emotionally fulfilled. That's the dynamic. It's not like, what do women need to do for me? No, it's how can I help her? Because if I can help her feel better, her reaction is going to be appreciation. It's going to be greater trust. It's going to be greater acceptance. And those are the messages that raise testosterone in men. So it's a beautiful win-win situation. I give to her, and if she receives it, I win as well. But we need to have education. We need to be reminded. We have to practice. It's like learning how to throw a basketball into the hoop. If you look at these, champions who do this, they practice 2 hours every day, to be able to make sure they can do that free throw. It's amazing. It takes practice. It's worth it. And it's enjoyable when you know the procedure.
Yeah, it's almost like we're not really taught these things. And most of our families of origin were not modeled these things that you're teaching. And yet we expect we're going to know this stuff like through osmosis. It's like expecting to know another language just, through osmosis. Like putting in the effort and energy to learn these things, it's so worth it, because you can have an extraordinary relationship. And that is something that makes life so much sweeter. So, John, that I'm such an admirer of you and your work, and I highly recommend everyone go to John's website, MarsVenus.com. There's so many resources there. John's books are incredible. I'm just amazed at the body of work that you've put out into the world, John. And I just think you're a gift and a blessing to the world. And you've contributed greatly to my education and to my work. And I feel like as a result of that, I'm able to help people more. I'm able to help women more. It's enhanced my own relationship, my own marriage. And so I'm just incredibly grateful to you personally, and I know so many people in this audience love our talks, love our interviews, and I just thank you so much for the gems that you've shared. And I think every woman here listening should go to John's website and get their Understanding Men course, because when we understand more about each other, that opens up a whole new realm of possibility. And I want you to have happiness and success in your relationships. So grateful to you, John, and so grateful to connect again. And thank you so much for so generously sharing your wisdom. I love what we talked about. I think there were so many gems today.
Thank you, Michelle. Always a pleasure to spend this time with you. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, mine too. Take good care. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Be sure to click on the resources here. We're going to put a link to John's website and some of the things that he talked about today and some of his books in the description. And we're so grateful that we had this time to connect with John and to connect with all of you. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.